Republican legislatures in various states have enacted laws that impede and curtail our voting rights. This is a coordinated, multifaceted attack on our democracy. Let's define this assault as pregame, game day, and postgame. Now, the pregame strategy is just to make voting more difficult. It's going to make it more difficult to vote early, to vote by mail, make it harder to get absentee ballots. In fact, these new laws have said Secretary of States are not able to just mail out absentee ballots to everyone. These new laws say there can be no mobile voting. The laws also say and decree that you can't have as many drop boxes spread out throughout the county. The pregame strategy basically just chips away at the times and locations and just the conveniences for our citizens to do their civic duty of casting a legal vote. The next second prong of attack is game day. Now, if some of this nonsense works for the pregame and not as many people are allowed to vote early, not as many people can vote by mail, absentee ballot, well then on game day, election day, it's going to be busy. There's going to be fewer locations to vote at, and there's going to be more people that want to vote. So there's going to be long lines. There's going to be delays. And for people that have family obligations, work obligations, they may not be able to stand in line for that long, may have to leave, and thus not vote. Unbelievably, Georgia has a law that if you offer water to someone standing in line waiting to vote, that it's a crime. A crime to offer water to someone in line waiting to vote. Another law that the GOP has enacted has made it easier to bring in partisan poll watchers. Now, poll watchers is a fine idea, as long as they're nonpartisan poll watchers. We don't want partisan poll watchers on either side, intimidating voters or election officials. Another law that they've enacted is election workers are liable to fines up to $10,000. Now, if you're a retired person, if you're a volunteer, a patriot that likes to help out on election day, game day, you like to see your neighbors, you want to help. But if you think if you make a mistake, if you do something wrong, even if you didn't know it was wrong, just something goofs up, you might be liable for a $10,000 fine. Do you think some people are going to say, maybe it's just not worth it? Nothing is left to chance with these laws. They attack the means of voting as well as the infrastructure of voting, namely the election workers. Okay, suppose that the pregame strategy works, keeps people away. The game day strategy works, that not as many people get to vote, but still, the election takes place, people find a way to vote, and the voting is done. And the Republican legislature doesn't like the result. Well, they have a backup plan. And the backup plan, the third prong of attack, the postgame, may be the most concerning. The third prong of attack, the postgame, centers around gaining control of the state election board. These laws have made it that the Secretary of State, the very office that runs the election, that the Secretary of State is not a voting member of the state election board. These laws also have given the legislatures power to suspend county election officials. So what does this mean? The state election board certifies the election. What happens if the state election board, now controlled by the partisan Republican legislature, what if they decide we're not going to certify the election? Well, what happens then? If the state election board doesn't certify the election, they toss it over to who? The state legislature, the very people who just enacted these laws. So now the election is in the partisan hands of the state legislature. And here's the final kill shot of the third prong of attack in the postgame. The state legislature can say, hey, we think there's fraud. Something's not right. This election didn't go like it should have. The other party won, and we should have won. And then they take those votes made by their citizens and they call them null and void. And then take their candidates and place them in the spots. Do we work for the politicians or do they work for us? Can we allow these politicians who serve at our pleasure to call our votes null and void, to just say they don't matter and they don't count, and place their own people in the places of power to run the show?